Right, everyone. So let's talk about the two areas. We've talked about the setup area in P5.js. Okay. So, let's just say for the sake of argument, I come in here and I say print hello world. Okay. If I put that print function here, when the program starts, it's going to run whatever is in here. So it's going to create a canvas and then it's going to print hello world. Okay. And because it's in setup, it's only going to run once and it's going to run as soon as the program starts. So it's going to say hello world. Let's just say that we also wanted to use an operator like we talked about before in the last video. I could do something like this, where I say something like print the value of 1 plus 1. And so that should print out a 2. And because it's running in the setup, it only runs once. And our value here is 2. Okay. Let's talk about the draw function. The way you should think about the draw function is this is what we call a loop. Okay. And in a loop, like it sounds like, it just repeats over and over and over and over again. Okay. Kind of like an animated GIF, like one of these little animated GIFs of a tomato walking or a llama, with a hula hoop around its neck. Okay. So think about this. Let's say I was trying to build a game, right? And I want the character to move forward. Well, actually, even before that, I'm jumping the gun a little. So let's say I'm going to get rid of this and I'm going to put this here. And I'm going to get rid of this. And let's go back to the draw function. And I'm going to say print hello world. Okay. So what's going to happen is when this program runs, first it's going to run this, then it's going to do this. What does it say to do? Prints hello world. Then that loops back to the beginning, print hello world. Loops back again. What does it tell it to do? Print hello world. So in other words, it's just going to keep repeating whatever code is here, which in this case is hello world. So it just keeps printing hello world, hello world, hello world, no. So if I come into here and I hit play, see that number there? That number means how many times hello world's been repeated. And you can see that it keeps growing, like 400, 500, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's say, though, I didn't use text. Let's say I did a calculation like this, 1 plus 1. Okay. Let's do a little chalkboard calculation before we do this. So this runs, first builds a canvas, then it puts a background color. This only happens once because it's in setup. Then I come here, 1 plus 1 is 2, print 2. Loops back, print 1 plus 1. So that's still the same. So then it prints 2, repeats, prints 2, repeats, prints 2. Okay. Okay. There you go. Now let's say, though, I didn't want it to keep repeating the same number. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, I'm going to make a variable. And I'm going to call that variable number. And I'm going to set it to 0. Okay. And I'm going to say print. So if I were to print number, variable substitution would say, okay, we know it's 0, that goes to here. And so it's just going to print 0 a bunch of times, right? And that's what happens. Let's say that's not what I wanted. I wanted it to maybe, keep adding 1. So I'm going to do this. Now, what it seems like it should do is it should be like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. But when I hit play, it still just keeps saying 1 a bunch of times. Now, why is that? Well, we are substituting. So here, let's do this. Go back to my handy dandy example. I made a variable called number. All right. Its value is equal to 0, at least when it's starting. Okay. What this is saying is substitute 0 in here. 0 plus 1 is 0. Then it repeats. Print 0 plus 1. 0. So the variable 0 or a number is still equal to 0. I never changed the value of number. So it just puts in 0 again. 0 plus 1 is 1. Repeats again. What is the value of number? Well, it's still 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. Repeat again. What is the value of number? Well, it's still 0. 0 plus 1 is 1, so on and so on. So really what I'm trying to do is I want this number to update. Okay. So what I'm going to do is in my draw function, what if we did this? I'm just going to print number. But after I print it, let's take that value, that variable I created, and let's add 1 to it. Okay. So here's number. Number starts out at 0, right? Let's run this, print 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So now number's new value is 1. Loops back, you print whatever number is, it's 1, so we print 1. We substitute that in here. We substitute in 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Number's new value is 2. I loop back, print out whatever the value of number is, which is 2. Substitute that in. 2 plus 1 is 3. Loop back, print it. So now what's actually happening is I'm manipulating my variable during the program. So while draw is running, and since draw updates every single frame, I can essentially, keep adding 1, and it would, keep updating this variable. All right, so let's see if our calculation is correct. So you can see what's happening. I'm just going to stop it. It started at 0, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now this is kind of interesting. We could kind of use this. What if instead of number, we're just printing a number? What if every time I repeated draw, we are going to use that as the diameter of the circle. So I'm just going to put the circle in the center here, x, y, and the number is going to be the diameter. So it starts off, the first diameter circle is 0, then it's 1, then it's 2, then it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Essentially what would happen is the circle would increase, right? Because the diameter every frame just keeps updating. All right. Or another way to do this is, what if we use number to be the x value of where the circle is? So I'm just going to stop this. Let's say I had something like this, circle 0, 225, right? This is my x value, this is my y value. So my circle is going to start there, right? But then let's say, what if we use that number value here? So that's going to substitute that in. Now, at the moment, number doesn't change, so it's always kind of just repeating the same thing. But if I were to say something like this, number equals number plus 1, what's going to happen is every time this repeats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, 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 essentially what's going to happen is it's going to move the circle to the right. So now we're actually manipulating the circle and making it look like it's going off of the page. Now, what's actually happening now, we can tell this by just printing out the value of number, is eventually the number gets so high, the X value, that it's actually going to go off of the page. Because this ends at 400, but eventually the X value is going to be more than 400. So it's actually like over here. Okay. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't do anything to stop that. Eventually, we will be able to stop that. But for now, it's like all we can do is manipulate. We can't make any decisions. We can't say, okay, once you get above 400, stop doing this or something like that. So this is something like why you might want to do, like, and if think about a video game where, like, if I was trying to program Space Invaders, it's like, well, the Y value of the enemy keeps, increasing, right? It starts at 0, which is the top, and then it just kind of goes boom, 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 boom. Okay. So I could use something like this, here, where it's like I just increase the Y value. So here, let's try to do something like that. I'm just going to stop this. I start at 0, or sorry, this is going to be number, which starts at 0, and then it moves down. Now, the way that the Space Invader is working, I would have to build a timer that essentially would not run every single frame, but would like run, pause, run, pause, run, pause. That's a little more complicated. But it's still the same idea where it's like we're manipulating the variable to change its numbers. Okay. So you guys had some exercises. Where is it? Here it is. So in exercise 5, we're just practicing manipulating a variable here. So here it's like, this is where my variable is. During the program, I could reset this value. Circle X equals 0. So what would happen is, even though I've defined it here, I'm redefining it here before we plug it in. And so now it's over here. Okay. This is what I just kind of did where, I want to create a variable that's going to substitute into here. So it's like, I'm going to set this to like, there's my circle. I'm going to make a variable called X, or circle X. And let's set that equal to 0. Let's do variable substitution to put that there. Okay. And if I hit play, this is in the draw function, so it's going to keep repeating this code. But because because circle X is always 0, it's always just going to be, at the top here. What I want to do is manipulate circle X. And I can do that by saying circle X equals circle X plus 1. What that means, or maybe even plus 5. What this means is every time this runs, it's going to move, increase the X value by 5. And then I get something like that. It's going really fast because my incremental is a lot. So if I did like 1 as opposed to 5, it should be a lot slower. Okay. So you can see how we can use draw to manipulate. Okay. And this is kind of interesting. We can think about ways, you could play around with like different numbers. Like, you guys learn how to, you could set a random, or sorry, you can increase, like, say, the stroke width, right? Or maybe, here's kind of a fun one to think about. I'm going to set the background color. So if you remember, background colors can also be numbers, like an RGB value, right? So an RGB value would be like 0, 0, 0 would be black. What I'm going to do is, let's say I'm going to set a color red. I'm going to set that to 0. I could do something like this, where why don't we take that that color R variable and add 5 to it every frame. That's going to change the red channel of my background color, and it's actually going to change the background color of my canvas. So if I say color R equals color R plus 5, let's say. See how it does that? It kind of went from black to maroon to a nice red there. And I can keep doing that for all these others and get some interesting kind of effects. Okay.